One day, in a small town surrounded by fields and long, dusty roads, there lived a young man named Daniel. From an early age, life had tested him in ways that seemed unfair. His father passed away when he was still a child, his mother struggled to provide for the family, and every dream he dared to hold on to seemed to vanish before it could grow. Daniel often sat under a large oak tree near his home, staring at the horizon, asking himself why everything felt so hard. The people in the village saw him as just another poor boy with little chance of making anything of his life. And in truth, Daniel often believed the same. Every failure echoed in his mind, louder than any small victory. He worked in the fields, he tried to sell goods at the market, and sometimes he even traveled to nearby towns in search of opportunity. But doors seemed to close faster than he could knock. Many nights, he went to bed hungry and discouraged, whispering, "Maybe I'm not meant to achieve anything." But deep inside him, even if faint, there was a flame that refused to die. It was hope, fragile but persistent, telling him that maybe tomorrow could be different. He carried this flame in silence, often without realizing it himself. One day, while Daniel sat by the oak tree with his head resting on his knees, an older man stopped on the road. His face carried the lines of time, but his eyes were sharp and alive. He looked at Daniel and asked, "Why do you sit here with so much despair in your face?" Daniel replied bitterly, "Because nothing works for me. I try and I fail. I fight and I lose. I don't have strength left." The old man sat beside him and said, "Do you know the story of the miner who dug for gold?" Daniel shook his head. The man began, "There was once a miner who spent years digging in the mountains. He worked day and night, through cold winters and scorching summers. People laughed at him, saying he was wasting his life. After many years, tired and hopeless, he gave up. The very next day, another man passed by, picked up the same tools, and with only a few strikes found the gold the first miner had been chasing all along. He had stopped only one step away. The lesson is this: those who stop will never know how close they were. But those who continue, no matter the pain, may find treasures beyond imagination." Daniel listened, his heart pounding with the weight of the words. He asked softly, "But what if I keep failing?" The old man smiled gently. "Then you keep standing. Success is not only in winning, but in refusing to quit. Every time you rise after falling, you prove you are stronger than yesterday. The man who never gives up cannot be defeated, because defeat only exists when we stop trying." That night, Daniel went to bed repeating those words. The next morning he woke with a different resolve. Instead of allowing failure to dictate his future, he decided to keep moving, no matter what. He worked harder in the fields, learned new ways to plant and harvest, and when crops failed, he tried again with new methods. He walked to the market with determination, selling with honesty and persistence. Slowly, people began to notice something in him, a strength that wasn't about wealth or status, but about perseverance. Months passed, then years. Daniel faced countless setbacks, but each time he rose again. And one day, when the rains finally blessed the land after a long drought, his harvest flourished in a way it never had before. He had more than enough to feed his family, more to sell, and more to share. That year marked the beginning of a change in his life. People who once doubted him began to ask for his advice. The boy who once sat under the oak tree filled with despair was now seen as an example of resilience. But Daniel's greatest treasure wasn't the harvest or the money he earned. It was the lesson engraved in his soul: never give up. He carried it like armor, and it gave him courage to face storms without fear. And then came the biggest test of all. His mother fell gravely ill. Doctors said there was little hope. For many, it would have been a reason to surrender to sadness. But Daniel remembered the miner's story and the old man's words. He did everything he could, seeking help, working harder to pay for medicine, never letting despair win. Though the road was painful, his mother slowly regained strength. It wasn't quick, it wasn't easy, but day after day, his persistence made the difference. From that moment on, Daniel became known throughout the village as the man who never gave up. Children grew up hearing his story, adults found courage in his example, and travelers carried his tale to distant towns. His life became proof that endurance is more powerful than talent, wealth, or luck. As Daniel grew older, he often returned to that same oak tree, but this time he didn't sit with his head down. He sat tall, with gratitude in his heart. He would tell anyone who listened, "Life will knock you down again and again, but each time you rise, you prove that you are stronger than defeat." The man who never gives up always wins, not because the path is easy, but because he refuses to stop walking. Think about your own journey. How many times have you thought about giving up just one step before reaching something great? How many times have you let failure convince you that you were finished, when in truth you were only beginning? The story of Daniel is a reminder to us all. You don't have to be the fastest, the richest, or the strongest. You only have to keep standing, because persistence is the quiet strength that changes everything. So I ask you today, what challenge are you facing that requires you to keep going? What dream is worth one more try, one more step, one more sunrise of effort? If this story touched your heart, share in the comments the time you refused to give up and what it taught you. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories that remind us of the power of resilience. And don't forget to leave a like, so this message can reach more people who need to hear today that the story of victory always begins with the choice not to quit.